Welcome to Best Story Wins. I'm your host, Jason Lenko, and today I'm joined by my co host, Josh Ritchie. And our guest with us today is Kohl Crecelius, who's the co founder and CEO of Known Supply. Hey there, Kohl.
Hey, how's it going?
Kohl, can you give our listeners here an overview of what Known Supply does and what you focus on in your role and some of the overall background on the story of the company?
Yeah, of course. And I know we have, limited time and attention, so I'll keep it somewhat brief. But Known Supply is an ethical fashion brand. We focus on providing opportunities for people in the garment industry to have living wage jobs and fair and safe working conditions and opportunities through their job in creating clothing. And then we are selling those clothes to people across the world, through retailers, online, and through B2B partners that help to share their stories with customers all over the place. The unique thing about what we do is that every one of our products is signed by one of the individual makers who was responsible for seeing that product be made. We really wanted to stand for the humanity in our industry, in fashion and apparel, because we felt like that was part of the conversation that was getting so overlooked and so detached from how our clothes are made and how we buy them, that there became these increasing gaps of exploitation, of just bad stuff entering the system because people didn't have that understanding and awareness. And so that's a bit about what we do. I've been in this industry for 17 plus years, starting brands in this vein, sort of working at the intersection of social good and fashion. And so I'm sure we'll get to dive into a lot more of that, but that's been my wheelhouse for a long time. It's really been my vocation, and really, my overall calling for my work.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Do you and when did the red beanie start?
Honestly, so this is a good story, and this is a good marketing lesson. So I oversee all of the marketing, communications, outward facing partnerships, everything related to the brand. I've always enjoyed speaking, sharing, storytelling, all of these things. And probably about 5 years into starting my first brand, which was specifically like a headwear focused brand, we were employing women in Uganda to create headwear, and providing all the things that I mentioned: livelihoods, fair opportunities to earn and create their own futures. And I remember being at a conference somewhere, and I was talking to this sort of speaker that I wanted to, I really was excited to chat with, and I wanted to tell them our story. And I sort of told them about our brand and how we were different, how we were making product. And he just looked at me square and he was like, "Where's your stuff? I want to see it." And I didn't have a hat on. We were in Southern California, so there's not always a need for wearing a beanie. And I was like, "Oh, well, I just sort of was caught, without having any of the product, a way to like really tell the story and showcase what it was that we did." And I literally, this was, oh man, this was probably 12 years ago. And I've worn a hat on my head every day since. And it became a red hat about 10 years ago, because then it sort of just become this like personal, like, trademark. I'm really easy to spot in a crowd. People know what my work is, and I get to tell them about it all the time. So yeah, I've been wearing a red hat for 10 years straight, pretty much every day. I have certain limitations on it, but for the most part, every single day.
It really threw me off the first time I saw you without it. Like I was like, are you Cole's brother?"
Yeah, yeah,
Nope, no,
hiding in plain
I am
sight,
Cole.
man.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I've known you for going on 10 years now, and I don't think I've ever heard that story. So I'm glad you ask about that, Jay, and thanks for sharing, Cole.
Yeah,
So you talked
absolutely.
about, yeah, you talked about being in this space for like 17 years. I know about how old you are.
Hmm.
So you got started young. Like you've
Hmm.
been an entrepreneur in this space for all your career, it sounds like. But
Hmm.
was there sort of a point during your upbringing, or maybe when you were in college, where you're like, I am going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to work in this space. If so, can you kind of speak to like what happened and uh, when that was?
Yeah, so speaking to the entrepreneurial side, it's one of those things for me that, and I'm sure you all hear this a lot, that it was innate. It was things that I was doing from a really young age. Like I think back to elementary school, and I don't know why I did this, but my mom would buy these huge packs of like Airhead candy, right?
Yes.
They're the best. And I don't know how this started, but I'd literally take them to school and bundles, and I would just be selling them 25 cents a pop, um, making money off my classmates. I was drawing at the time. I would draw pictures, sell them to people. I had a lawn mowing business, a snow shoveling business. It was all these things that like I guess I had a taste of what it felt like to actually start something and earn my own money, and that was really interesting. I remember graduating college and just went to business school, seeing all these kids and peers and classmates, getting jobs at these like accounting firms and consulting firms, and I just knew that that was not for me. I knew that I was going to do something on my own, or I guess you could also say I have like a little bit of an authority problem. I never have liked anyone telling me what to do. And so it just so happened that it coincided that some friends and I had this initial idea while we were still in college to start this headwear company, um, which we can talk more about. But it was really grounded in purpose more than it was anything else, and that was the thing that uh, set me on this trajectory of coming out of school, landing in an entrepreneurial role, and then there's been a whole plethora of things that have kept me there. But the big piece of it being that there is that missional component, that the work has mattered personally to me more than anything else.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So you spoke a little bit about what it's like to um, be responsible for a mission led or purposeful brand. Can
Mm-hmm.
you speak a little bit to what's unique about that and how that coincides with what we're seeing in the marketplace right now? Like, what's one of the biggest challenges that you and your company face right now, and how are you all navigating it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Leading mission led or really mission first brands is really interesting, because you really are holding these uh, two goals at equal levels, right? Like you have to be profitable. You want to run a business that is going to financially sustain itself for years and years to come, sustain yourselves and the livelihoods of the people that work with you. Um, but then you, at the same time, are wanting to care for that missional aspect. For us, that's our supply chain. It's the garment workers, it's people at every level of how our products are made. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we face as social entrepreneurs, or whatever nomenclature you want to tie to it, is this desire to say too much, to want to convince people of the same passion and mission, that, or the passion for the mission that you have, and in a result overwhelm, overload, over communicate the things that you feel like are the most special about who you are, what you do. um, I think it's an interesting landscape, as we all can appreciate over the last, you know, 10 to 15 years. You can see the way that purpose has entered the common sort of conversation in society and business and all these sorts of things. And so I think we were fortunate to have that purpose from such a, integral beginning level that it hasn't ever been separated from who we are in our company. But so many people today now can appreciate a mission, a value system, a company that stands for something, and that's something that is accepted. But it's been a long slog to get to that point, to get to the point where people actually have an appreciation for it, and it they don't view it as either a distraction or something that is a nice to have, or that you're, so far on the other end of the spectrum, you don't care about your business, you just care about making an impact. So I think that fortunately those two things have coincided, where people's level of interest for and just tolerance and desire to learn more about how a company is run, what it stands for, and the ways in which we have operated have been working together collectively in the same direction, which is pretty cool. But we still have to check ourselves that product has to be amazing. It has to be things that people want to wear. For us in our industry, it has to be on trend. The fabrics have to feel nice. It's all of those things have to be at the same level, if not above, any one of our competitors. It's just that we also hold this missional side of our work as well.
That's so cool, man. It's really cool to hear, like everyone has talked about authenticity for years, but I've seen over the years, the way you bring, the story of the person who made the product, like bringing that human element into this. How do you feel like what pressure do you feel, or not pressure? I think it's like a positive thing, but like you mentioned that balancing act of like the financial reality and this commitment. How do you relate to, I guess, integrity in that process, and like the actual authenticity that enables for your brand to be telling this story without it being just like cause washing, just slapping a cause on the back of it?
It's such a good question. And to give you a little bit of context for my response. So when we first started, this was 2007, and really for the first 10 years of our work, so from 2007 to 2017, we started by starting our own production facilities in Uganda, so in the heart of Africa, making headwear for our first brand called Crochet Kids International. We started a second production operation in Peru that was not only making headwear, but started to make apparel, cut and sew apparel as well. And we thought at that point that to have the integrity at the level that we wanted to, we felt like we needed to own every single step in that process. We needed to be the manufacturer. We needed to be the designers. We needed to be the marketers. We needed to sell all the product. We needed to totally vertically integrate every aspect of our business in order to truly hold that integrity. But what that nearly did to us was completely sunk our business, because we were managing so many different things. And on top of just managing the business side of multiple production facilities and, designing and selling headwear and apparel, the thing that we were also tying ourselves too closely to was that our impact could only look one way. Our impact meant employing people through full-time salaries at, through thick and thin, no matter what, having this high level of production so that we could have that high level of impact, or so we thought. But in doing that, the market changes and dips, and our sales are up one year and they're slightly down the next year. So as we maintained what we thought was integrity of full production, employing, hundreds of people across multiple continents, we were burying ourselves in our own inventory, and we were creating so much that we didn't have a sales channel for, or that the sales had shifted, but we weren't willing to give up on what we thought was the best impact that we could have, which was employing people to create goods. And we had to have a serious, sort of conversation, looking in the mirror and saying, what is impact? What is sustainability if it's not long term? If it's not going to exist years and years and years from now? It's like, how much are we going to hold our ego and what we believe, high impact looks like at the potential result of just totally, failing in our business? And so we had to get really honest with what that integrity meant, and understand how to do that in the long term in a way that would be sustainable for our impact, sustainable for our business. And we went through a process of finding, of first asking ourselves what we were really good at, what we enjoyed doing. For us, and myself and my business partner, that was, we really enjoyed, producing things. We were really good at it. We really enjoyed partnering with other people and expanding upon this mission of employing and empowering more and more individuals. And so we had to dissect our business in ways that allowed for us to focus on the things that we were best at, and then partner in areas that we knew we couldn't sustain over the years. And so what that looks like for us now is partnering with Fair Trade Certified to produce all of our goods, and factories that they sort of vet. It means working with folks who are certifying organic materials and sustainable materials that we use. It was less about us owning every single step in the process, and finding the partners that were the best at what they did in the key areas that we lacked to prove the overall impact and integrity of what we were doing, and leaning into that, so that we could, grow in the things that we were best at.
That's amazing. What skills have helped you the most as you've, made some of these tough decisions? And just thinking about listeners who are building their own brands, and even just starting out, like what are the skills that you feel like you wish you would have developed earlier or paid attention to earlier?
Speaking to my last response, I think self-awareness is a big one, right? Like, I always say that in the first 10 years of our work, I was playing the role that I thought a CEO was. Like, I was literally just taking sort of like the cultural cues and reading all the business books, doing all the things, and I was just playing this character of like, oh, I need to be a great manager of people. I need to be really great at understanding the finances behind our business. I need to I need to be good at everything, essentially. And over just the course of time and lots of hard and honest conversations with, mentors and business partners and other folks, it's like getting really clear on what it is that you're best at, and leaning into those things was the most valuable lesson, one of the most valuable lessons that I have learned. And it doesn't mean that we, especially in early stages, that we don't have to do a lot of hard things and a lot of things that we're really bad at, because that's part of, what it means to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, a brand leader, what have you. But the more honest that I could be and create pathways to understanding, these are the things that I'm going to continue to work towards leaning into, and being honest with what I'm bad at. That was the biggest thing. And then the other thing that I would say is just building I don't know what the language is around it, but just building a thick skin, understanding that we are not we do not live and die by the ups and downs of our businesses, that everything in life, including business, including the economy, all these things are very cyclical, they're very seasonal. So I think that the sooner that any brand owner can learn that it's more about, in my belief, a long obedience in the same direction more than it is about, you know, are we constantly up and to the right in every category of our business, right? Like, that's why I love the missional aspect of what we do, because no matter what, we can ground ourselves in something that matters. And no matter what we're doing, we're making an impact as we go. And that, there will be dips and valleys and good years and bad years and COVID years that will happen. But the more that you just realize that it's like, as long as everything that you're doing over a long period of time is trending in the direction that you want it to, that's all you can ask. You can't get too worried about quarter to quarter, every single little thing that's happening. You gotta have that sort of perspective. It's so important.
That's super cool. That's really helpful. As you're speaking certainly to the CEO role of keeping people focused on the vision,
Yeah.
thinking about what inspires people. Beyond that high level, long term direction, just thinking to all the different hats you've worn. How about that?
Yeah.
The what's something where you just like really enjoy just getting your hands dirty, or that reminds you of the early days where you just are like, you can just hunker down and like work on it for hours in your business?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like one of the things that's so important for us to do. And mind you, like, we could talk about this, but I mean, we are a very small and lean team. Like, there's 6 of us, including myself and my business partner who manage our business, and we do a lot of different things. Um, but one of the roles that's so important for me is continuing to dive into uh, the just storytelling aspect and the individual stories of garment makers. One thing that I do, it's like some people, well, I'll say 2 silly things that I do that people might look at and be like, wait, you do that? The first is I go through and approve or really review every single comment, or really we call them thank you notes, where our customer has purchased a product, they go to the profile of the person who made that product that has a tag on that item, and then they write a thank you note to that person. I go through and I approve every single one of those. Because it means it, like, it feeds my soul so much just to see these interactions taking place. I also get to see when they call out a specific partner of ours, like Whole Foods, or REI, somewhere somebody has purchased a product, and we're pass along those notes to our key partners. And I get to also capture ones that I think are especially compelling, and I send those to our team, so that they are reminded of that connection and that missional aspect. The other thing that I do, I was just telling somebody this the other day, I am the chat person on our website. So anybody who's on knownsupply.com, and hit me up like, if you listen to this podcast, go to that little chat function in the lower right hand corner, and people message all sorts of stuff, size questions, whatever. And I'm that person because it just gives me an insight into what customers are thinking. where there are, pitfalls with the website, or just like what is interesting to them. And I love it. And I literally, so somebody will message at like 7 p.m. on a Saturday night, and I'll just hit them back really fast. It's like, I don't have to have, if there are things that like, I don't need to answer, or it isn't this all consuming thing, but because I can like, sort of assign cases to other folks, but like I'm the first point of contact. And it's been really like gratifying. I get to have like conversations with people, and I get to reinforce aspects of our work that would be hard for somebody else to do. I literally, every single time somebody, is messaging with me, I say like, thanks for shopping with us and thanks for supporting ethical fashion. Like, constantly driving home that point that like you as a shopper are doing something so much bigger than just buying something, and even bigger than, supporting Known Supply. You're like supporting a broader movement. And I believe that is really important.
Yeah, that's super cool, Cole. I heard your phone vibrate there. It was me sending you a message.
Oh, nice.
For the website.
There it is. Yep.
Just wanted to see if that was if you were telling the truth.
Legit, man.
Yeah.
The clock's ticking on your response time.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll give you a second.
Not some people catch me, at a bad time, but it's all good.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that you're staying close. So not only the company, but the customers as well. I think a lot of CEOs could do more of that. You touched on story quite a bit there in some of your previous answers. And the name of our podcast is Best Story Wins. Mm-hmm. And that's really rooted in our belief that story is how companies can strike and maintain a competitive advantage, and do so for the long term in a way that enables them to be better positioned in the hearts and minds of their would-be customers. And then, the win, right, is you hope that you win, right? You hope that you're able to, get more customers than your competitors. But just curious to understand, I know you touched on this a little bit, but like, what specifically about the Known Supply story really tends to resonate the most with the buyers? Is it the handmade, you get to connect with the person that made it, or is there something else? Or are there multiple parts of the story that you feel like, wow, these are the main kind of points, and these are the things that we hear people talking about frequently as why they love the brand and why they keep coming back?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I would say we view our brand as an educational tool. And that one aspect of that is the education we get to help shoppers understand of the human impacts of our purchasing. But it goes beyond that. Like, and that's something that I've really realized more recently, that the education, it isn't only focused surrounding Known Supply, but it really is helping to educate people on how to make better purchasing decisions across the clothing that they buy, as well as, just how we show up as shoppers. I use the word shopper a lot, and I try to avoid the word consumer for this exact reason, is like helping people understand who they are sort of in this ecosystem and the power that they do have in making decisions that can have positive impacts, right? So I think that's one thing that people really, I hope and believe that people gravitate toward, is that, Jason used the word authenticity behind our work. It's something that we try to be very clear about across all levels of what we do. And one of the ways we do it is through our literal language that we choose, and how we communicate with any of our stakeholders, customers, what have you. I remember reading this book years ago, and it talked about the importance of vocabulary for lots of companies, but I remember the Walt Disney Company specifically being called out and saying, hey, like, they don't have staff right, at Disneyland. They have cast members,
Mm.
right? Like everybody has a role to play within an ecosystem of what they're trying to, create in this world, the feeling that they want people to have. And I've really taken that to heart. So it's like we don't deal with consumers. Like we have shoppers, we have customers. We don't have, you know, just stores that sell our stuff. We have retail partners. Every bit of language that we put out and how we communicate about what we do is not only about the impact in supporting known supply, but the impact in supporting the broader movement of ethical fashion. As I mentioned, it's something that I always try to drive home for anybody who's choosing to support the brand. And gosh, I just hope that people, and I think they do. I just hope that they feel that sense of intentionality behind everything that we do, and that they come back to support that broader mission as much as they do the products and the things that we wear or that we create. I think luckily, at the end of the day, we have an incredible designer, and the product resonates. It checks really well with our retail partners. It's sells through online. Customers love it. So it's those are kind of the table stakes. But I think what people stick around for is sort of that intentionality, and the authenticity behind the brand.
Yeah, that's really cool. So this next question is a two-parter. The first part of the question is, previously you were all known as Crochet Kids. So why the rebrand? And the second part of the question is, what's the brand philosophy, if you were to put it into just a few words, that drives you all?
Yeah. So we started in 2007. Our first brand was Crochet Kids International. We got about 10 years into that project, and we realized that in a lot of ways we were sort of capping at just sort of our growth and our scale. And there was a lot of things that we could point to that all played a role at some level of importance in why we were sort of hitting this ceiling. Part of it was just confusion, as our audience began to get wider and wider, and the people who were learning about us were a little bit further from the founding of this brand, of these guys who were crocheters themselves, who went to Uganda and taught women to crochet and started this beanie company. That there was some just, I think, miscommunication, misunderstandings there. I think the product opportunities outside of headwear and outside of crocheted knit items was another thing we were noticing. But I would say above all of that, we noticed something a lot bigger. And the thing that we noticed was that people started to come to us and say, hey, will you produce for me? We're the Global Citizen Festival, and we stand for, anti-poverty globally. And we don't know who else to trust to make our stuff other than somebody like you, who is so integrated into understanding your industry and how to do this in the best way possible. And we said, that's really interesting. And so this leads into known supply and the second part of your question, which is, how do you sum up what we do? We exist to increase the access of ethical fashion to the world. That's through how we educate people, and it's through making ethical products accessible to more and more people. So the main difference between Crochet Kids and Known Supply is not really the products that we make. It's more our philosophy with how we treat those products. In our first 10 years, we saw our unique production style and this connection to the maker as our unique differentiator. And what are we taught as marketers when we have a unique differentiator? You guard that. You be the brand that has access to that, and no one else does that. You're the one who does it best. So you protect it and you say, this is only for us. There becomes a problem when you're a mission-led company, is that if this thing that's your unique differentiator, that's literally bringing people out of poverty, is the thing that you're protecting and not giving anyone else access to, it can be counterproductive to the broader mission of actually employing more people in more fair and safe working conditions to create more products. And so we saw that contradiction and we lived that contradiction, and we said, this has to be different. We have to make, if people care about this idea of producing ethical merchandise, we want to be the ones to be the bridge and help them do that better. The comparison that I make, or something that was sort of a light bulb moment for me was the whole story of Elon Musk opening up all of his patents for his battery technology and everything that Tesla had been created, right? Because he noticed that if EVs, if electrical vehicles were going to be viable, that they had to be broadly accepted, that everybody had to have access to them, that the infrastructure would have to support that. And so he gave away those patents, that technology, or the plans at least, to help the EV market grow as a whole. And I really see part of what we do at Known Supply is raising the overall just amount of access and points of contact with ethical merchandise to be a very huge part of what we do. Because as a shopper interacts with that more and more and more, and they buy a Channel Islands t-shirt, and they buy a t-shirt from NPR, and they buy a t-shirt from Whole Foods, all that were produced by Known Supply, and that has that connection to the maker, that it will be something that people begin to expect, that it's like, isn't this fringy, oh, there's this one brand in Southern California that does this one thing, but that it's really something that all these brands care about, and that, hey, why doesn't every brand do this? Or why don't I have this with all these items that I shop? And so that is really the ethos of Known Supply. And that is what has given me renewed passion and interest and excitement around our mission, is that it's not about how much can we grow this singular brand on this one concept, but how much can we make a positive impact in ethical fashion as a whole, in the fashion industry as a whole, through operating in a way that's partner driven and collaborative.
Dude, that's incredible. That's such a powerful demonstration of you actually meaning it, like your mission. Mm-hmm. to say, I mean, you can benefit while, helping other businesses succeed too, right, which is cool. But it's like, in a lot of those cases, you're not going to have the brand recognition. Like any one of those brands might, capture whatever share of voice of the ethical fashion conversation. And you're almost saying we don't really care if we get all of the credit. There was a guy who told me this about just doing purposeful work, kind of the DNA of companies. And I'll never forget him saying this. It was like a guy who had consulted IBM and some major companies on this concept, but this guy, John Anoda. He was like, if you don't care about getting the credit, you can actually change the world. Because if you get to a place where other companies will even let you start tinkering with their DNA to get them to make a slightly more positive impact. They're never going to say it was your idea and give you credit for what you influenced them to do. But if you don't care about that, you can make an exponentially greater impact. Yeah. It goes back to what you're saying about checking your own ego earlier, right?
And what's cool is that, what's been encouraging to see is that so many people that have chosen to work with us or let us help them create merchandise in a way that sort of meets their values is that a lot of times they're so proud to share that Known Supply is a partner of theirs. And that was always our hope, was that it would be something that would resonate and be a tool for them to communicate, the choices that they're making and the positive impacts they're creating. But yeah, it's not all the time, like people but that's really besides the point for us. It's like the more that we get to create, the more products that we're building, the more that we know that people's lives are being impacted. So that's the ultimate really goal for us.
So with the economy, the fun damper on any conversation, what is it meaning for you all right now? Just generally, people are just thinking more critically about what they buy and how much they spend on new things. How's that impacting you?
Yeah. Part of the other just development with Known Supply was it was all those things. It was missional. It was a business opportunity, and in a lot of ways, it helped to de-risk our business in important ways as well. So now our business is really made up of three main parts plus the add-on fun part. We do e-com. And those are some of the places that you see some of that like immediate, COVID was for a lot of e-commerce related brands was insane. And we were no exception to that. It was very positive in that specific channel. So we do e-com, we do work with retailers, big Anthropologie, Whole Foods, REI, and hundreds of small boutiques. So we do that wholesale business. And then we do our custom business, which is creating custom merchandise, screen printing, embroidering, whatever it takes to help people create merchandise that they're proud of for their corporation, their small business, their nonprofit, what have you. So those three things, having those in play, it's been very positive for the business because it's sort of leveled out a lot of those ups and downs. The B2B component is something that is really fun. And as we all know, in certain economies, some businesses are up and some businesses are down. Known Supply gets to work across the spectrum, right? So we get to work with, if we lose some clients, we're able to pick up others who are doing well. So that's the one bright side of sort of this diversified approach that we've taken within the apparel industry. And then the other thing that I would just say to that is that we're just very lean. We're not a heavily, we don't operate with like really heavy overhead. And so we're operating in a way that like allows some flexibility year to year, and not to be too like underwater. And last thing I'll say is I said we do three main things with a fun fourth. So the other thing that we do with Known Supply is we have been quietly launching brands under Known Supply that sort of look at key markets and opportunities. So we talked about Crochet Kids. Crochet Kids, we actually relaunched as a children's specific headwear and accessories brand. That is going to go after the children's market and sort of tell the same story of ethical fashion, educating the younger generation. Our designer, incredible designer named Molly, she wanted to launch a women's intimates line, so we launched a brand called Discreature, which is focused on subscription business for women's intimates. And organic, fair trade certified, all the same values, but addressing these sort of segments of the industry, of demographics that have been overlooked in the ethical fashion conversation in some big ways. So we have a lot of things going on, and that just helps de-risk the business from, some of the economic turmoil.
Yeah, that's cool to hear. I was familiar with Molly's brand, Discreature, and I think I'd caught wind of how you all were relaunching crochet kits, but it's really cool to hear you talk about kind of the vision for that, kind of like brand incubator, for lack of a better word. So we can't end on a question about the economy, even though your answer wasn't depressing. But what are you excited? I mean, you talked about a lot of things that you all are working on that are, to me, exciting and I think very interesting. I think the B2B play is a really smart one, so kudos to that. But what about things that are kind of around the corner that you guys are like just really excited about? Is there something that you set your sights on and you're like, this is the next thing, or where does that question take you?
Yeah, so there's two things really. The first thing is that, if you are at all sort of educated or interested in sustainability, sort of the broader umbrella term of sustainability, and as that relates to fashion, you can quickly understand that the answer to a more sustainable fashion industry is not more brands creating more stuff. And I think that even for us can be a contradictory. It can be contradictory to our mission of, creating and not causing more harm just by producing, even though livelihoods in a production sense are better because of what we make. So one thing we really have our sights on in 2024 is moving towards circularity. And for us, that will mean not only repurposing existing garments of ours through resale, through recycling, like making our products, the lifespan of our products last longer, but also doing some actual fiber to fiber recycling of product material. So we work a lot with 100% organic cotton on all of our t-shirts, hoodies, everything that we make. And so working and establishing partnerships that we will be able to take old products, break those fabrics down, and spin new products, spin new fabrics out of existing fabrics, right? So this idea of circularity, it's a big conversation within sustainability in fashion, but more broadly, that idea of like, how do you keep more of or create more of a closed loop system? And so we want to, at Known Supply, want to be a big part of continuing to not only further our understanding and positive impacts, but sort of go in line with a lot of these players in our industry who are thinking hard and trying to create these opportunities as well. And then the last thing that I'll say is, the B2B opportunity is really interesting. For us, we're creating custom merchandise. That merchandise currently is limited to the things that we produce: headwear, apparel, some bags and accessories, certain things like that. But we see an opportunity to really expand that merchandise program through other partners who are like-minded and how they produce things, and be more of like a one-stop shop for organizations that just need more help. Like, it can be hard to piecemeal, like, oh, I'm going to get my apparel from over here, I'm going to get my drinkware from over here. So we're looking at how we can make a bigger impact in that merchandising space, both through what we provide, but also through that ethos of how we can ensure that these things are recycled. Because, swag, of all things in apparel, is notorious for being sort of throwaway, disposable, bad. It has kind of a bad rap. And some companies it's because they don't know how to approach it. So we want to help them on a broader level execute those programs.
Yeah, that's really cool. Sounds like there's a lot to be excited about. Well, I know we're at time. Kohl, it's been awesome catching up. Thanks for being on today. For people that want to learn more about you, that want to learn more about Known Supply, where's the best place to find you all online?
Yeah, so knownsupply.com, and that's KNOWN. It's not Gnome Supply with a G, even though I wear a red beanie. That's a confusion that people have sometimes.
Oh my God.
And then on all social, Known Supply. So yeah, find us there. Like I said, chat me on the website. If you have any questions, I'll point you in the right direction of some product that you'll like.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Kohl.
You bet. Thanks
Thanks,
guys.
Kohl.